Hi, my name is Chapin, and I'm director and founder of CreEducate Consulting. And I'd like to talk to you today about copyright. As many of you already know, when you publish words and data in the form of a table or figure in a journal article, a book, a chapter in a book, that information actually becomes the property of the publisher. So if you want to reuse that information, a whole sentence, two sentences, a figure, a table, you need to first get permission from the publisher who originally published it. And that applies whether you are the author of that work or someone else. Now, in most cases, that getting permission to reuse information is free, but you have to answer several questions and walk through a process to make sure that's the case. And whether it's free or not, whenever you want to reuse data or words, you're expected to get a licensing agreement from that first publisher. Now that sounds complicated, but it's not in most cases. Let me walk you through a procedure that should work most of the time for you. The easiest way to get permission to reuse material from an article is to go to that article at its journal, at its home. In this case, I've gone to the journal Nature Chemistry, and I found this particular article. I look on a side menu here on the right, reprints and permissions, or rights and permissions. I click on that. It takes me to another part of the web page, reprints and permissions. I click on that. And that now takes me to the CCC, the Copyright Clearance Center. This is a central web resource where most publishers around the world have signed on so that you can go directly from a particular journal to this clearance center and ask for permission to reuse text, figures, tables in your new publication. Not all publishers have signed on, but most of the major ones have. So in this case, here is my article. And now I have to answer a series of questions that will determine whether I need to pay to reuse content. It asks me, I would like to do what? In this case, I want to reuse, let's say, I'm going to write a review article, and I'm going to reuse a figure from an existing publication in my review article. So I'm going to write a review article, reuse the content in a journal or magazine. That's my review article. Now, based on my response, I have to answer further questions. Now, here's where it can get tricky. If you notice above, it gives you instructions here. If my review article is going to be published by a publisher that has joined onto this program, and most have, then when it asks me, I should go down here and go to I am a publisher who wants permission to reuse. I click on that option, and then it asks me, well, which publisher are you? It gives me a pull-down list. You look for the publisher who's going to publish a review article. Let's say the American Physical Society. Now I click that. Now, if your publisher is not in that pull-down list, you're going to have to click up here. You will click academic, university, or research institute. If you're at a nonprofit, if you work at a company, of course, you'd have to pick something else like commercial, pharmaceutical, medical communication. In many of those cases, you will need to pay for reuse. But again, that's only if the person publishing your review article or journal article where you're going to reuse the content, that publisher is not in the pull-down list. But let's say it is, so American Physical Society. So I'm going to continue. Am I reusing the content for something that's being sponsored by a drug company or a device company? Let's say no. My format is here. What am I using this content for? I'm going to have it in my review article. My review article will be published online, so it's electronic. And I would like to, what content would I like to reuse? I'd like to reuse a figure, let's say. And let's say, in fact, I want to use two figures from this Nature Chemistry paper in my review article. So I wrote the word two. Do I need high resolution? Yes, I do, because my publisher of the review article said You need to get very good quality figures. For circulation, how many people might see my review article? Well, it's going to be electronic. The whole world could see it maybe. So I'm going to pick the highest number. Am I the author of this content that I'm trying to reuse? So remember, copyright applies whether I'm reusing my own data or not. In this case, I'm not reusing my own data, so I'll say no. Will I be translating that content? No. If I say yes, I will be asked into how many languages I'm translating the content. So things are getting complicated these days when money is involved. And then finally, it asks me, what currency do I want to see the bad news? If there is bad news, I'll click on currency and then I'll click quick price. And it tells me, indeed, in this case, I have to pay something. Now, I did this trial earlier and I didn't have to pay anything. So now I'm a little confused why. I think I know why. If I go back and I change the number of figures to 1, and I change that I don't need high resolution, let's see what it tells me. If I click again, quick price, now it's free. Very good. So you may have to play around a little bit with what you're allowed to do for free. Then in this case, they even tell you above, this request is free of charge, although you are required to obtain a license. No problem. This Copyright Clearance Center does it all for me. What you're going to do is you're going to click the continue button and you will go all the way through and you'll get an electronic license that you download and actually keep with you. You may even need to give it to the publisher of your review article before they will publish it. You want to have a proof that you have licensing permission from that publisher to reuse that figure or table. This is roughly the procedure you have to go through. By the way, to do all this, I think that you have to open an account with the Copyright Clearance Center. You register with them, it's free. You have to answer several questions about where you work. But other than that, it's fairly fast. And through this center, through this process, you should be able to do most of the licensing needs that you have for your book chapters, books, thesis, journal articles that you're writing if you want to recycle content. If what I just showed you does not work, maybe it's a particular publisher that's not in the group that signed up to this Copyright Clearance Center or some other reason, then you can always, all journals usually have an email address. For example, permissions@publisher.com. You write an email to that publisher and you explain that my name is this, I work at this university, I'm writing a review article or book chapter, whatever, and I would like to reproduce table 2 from this publication of yours. Could I have permission? And then a human will eventually answer you and you can walk through the process with that human. And then that email communication that you do with the journal stands as proof that you have permission from that journal or that publisher to reuse their content. So I've shown you today these 2 methods for getting to permission. Make sure that you do think about these things. In the past, when I did my dissertation, this wasn't really as much of an issue. But now, even if you're writing a dissertation, which you may never publish, you are probably going to be expected to get permission to reproduce any tables or figures that you might use in your introduction or somewhere in your dissertation. So copyright is now affecting a lot of you researchers. Make sure you're aware of it. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us for assistance. We would be glad to help you. Good luck and have fun.